wasn't working.
Just a minute. It's happening.
Yep, it's just
Play it
happening.
in your head.
Yep.
You
Dun, 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 dun.
There you go.
Hey everybody, that's welcome to another episode of Geek Bytes podcast. This is episode 79. I'm Ramon Mejia.
I'm Edgar Acosta.
And every single podcast we're bringing you the roundup of the week's best geek and tech news. We discuss that news and of course anything else that we are interested in that week.
In Geek News this week, we'll talk about all the Sony announcements, Android Nougat, pizza delivery by drone, the Flash movie villains, and much, much more.
And in our discussion section, we'll be talking about our interview with Travis Bagwell, the author of the Awaken Online Catharsis series. And we're going to begin our show, though, with Geek News. And in our first story, we're going to talk about Sony. Sony has a bunch of news that came out this week. We have a few of those stories out already. Our first bit of Sony news is going to be about Sony raising the price of the PlayStation Plus from $50 to $60 a year. For some people, this was the most outrageous thing ever. Other people were like, Xbox does this every single year, so it's not a huge thing to a lot of people. But this is actually the first time that Sony has raised their prices for the PlayStation Plus membership since its inception for a few years ago. Our next Sony story, though, is that PlayStation Now is going to be coming to Windows and PC machines soon, so you can stream your Sony games right to your PC. And for a lot of people, that's a great thing. For other people, they're like, I have a PlayStation, so why do I need to do this thing? But for those PC players who love some of those Sony games, this is kind of a big deal for them. They've missed out on some of those Sony exclusives from the PlayStation 3 on, and now they can stream it there. You're going to need a special adapter for your PlayStation controller, which is going to run you about $25. And the requirements for PlayStation Now are a little out there. They require at least Windows 7, not a huge deal. 3.5 gigahertz of Intel iCore 3 or CPU, at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, and 5 megabits per second faster internet connection. So some of those later specs might be a little too much for your cheapy laptop, but if you have a reasonably new computer, you should be okay. Of course, the biggest story from PlayStation was going to be the fact that their latest version of the PlayStation was kind of leaked. So if you've seen the pictures, those are going to be what it looks like. And real quick, we're just going to say hello to Ashley Anico, Abraham Rubio, and Yolanda Ontiveros for joining us for the live version of the Geek Bytes podcast. Thank you very much, guys. But the Wall Street Journal has confirmed sources that this picture that was leaked is actually going to be a picture of the PlayStation 4.5 or the PlayStation Sim. Rumors are that there are actually going to be two new announcements in September, and two new PlayStations are going to be released. One, which is the current version, just a little bit slimmer, like the Xbox S. And also the Sony PlayStation 4.5, codenamed Neo. So, what'd you think of these, man?
It's cool. The new slimmer version almost reminds me of what I thought was the PlayStation TV thing that they came out for a while back, which pretty much just allowed you to play a lot of the PSP games on your PlayStation if you have a PlayStation 3 controller, if I'm correct, which is fine. Once again, I did not abandon the PlayStation bandwagon on it because I've had the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. I missed out on 3, don't have 4. I jumped over to Xbox, but there are some exclusive titles that still makes me want to probably pick it up just for the sake of, nostalgia reasons.
Yeah, any of the Kingdom Hearts kind of video games or the Final Fantasy games, those are usually the PlayStation exclusives.
All the Capcoms, all the the Marvel, well, they have some Marvel stuff, yeah, but mostly the Capcom stuff too.
Yep. So, I mean, there are plenty of reasons, plenty of great video games if you're interested. And the PlayStation Now service does a reasonably good job of streaming things to your computer, or in this case, a PlayStation 4 to your Windows soon. And it's a good price, $9 a month. Same price for the monthly service. Yolanda in the chat room asked how do you diddly, and also what's the price range. The monthly service for PlayStation Now is about $9.99 a month, which is cheaper than a lot of on-demand streaming video game services. But again, it's going to cost you an extra $25 for the adapter for your PlayStation controller to plug into your Windows machine to get the service running. But if there's just some PlayStation exclusive that you have to play, $30 out the door is not going to be the worst price in the world. But they have like hundreds of titles available for their service, and I've seen that on the PlayStation. There are a lot of really interesting, good, fun titles that you might have missed out on for the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4 if you never got it.
The only press about it, like these new consoles they're kind of doing with what Xbox is doing, is giving you a lot of free games a month, a couple games a month, and sometimes there are some really good ones on there and worth at least you can't say no really to a free game because you'll try it out. Obviously, if it sucks, real easy, delete. It's that simple. So you don't wind up breaking the bank. Other than who knows, you might going to get hooked up into a new gaming system,
which is what I'm sure PlayStation is hoping for.
Yeah, we're just gonna give it some time. I'm a very let the latest console be out for about a year because the first generation's versions of whatever either have an overheating problem that they destroyed the disc, a connection issue, software, but hopefully they've tinkered all that out before they put it out in market.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a new PlayStation video game console, wait about a month. The new ones are supposed to be announced September 7th, I believe. So you might want to wait just a few more weeks before you make that purchase. Moving on to our next story, though.
All right. On Android Nougat is out. Android Nougat is out of beta and available for Google's Nexus devices, the Pixel C tablet, and general mobile 4G Android One phone. It should roll out over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, so if you're an Android fanboy or girl, this is great news for you. You have to check your local service subscriber to see when it's going to roll out for your particular phone on your particular network. But some folks already have it preloaded in some of the newer phones. I believe LG has a phone coming out that already has it pre-installed as the basic operating system. For everyone else, you're probably going to have to wait a little while until it comes to your particular operating system. But it's fun. Apparently, it does a lot of cool things that are better than the current version of Marshmallow, and I'm looking forward to downloading it myself.
Just make sure who knows how much memory this thing's going to take, because that's the one thing that with any kind of software or whatever upgrades, it'll replace some things, but it also winds up taking up more space. So unless you have one of those lucky Androids that have the additional SD memory card slot, which I love, the micro SD, I just got to get one that's not corrupt. Mine corrupted.
That's right. His took money from the public, and now it's considered quite corrupt.
Oh, well. Anyway, it's fun. I love it. I want to get a new. I have my old. We still have the same phone, the Galaxy 4, the Note 4, and I'm still happy with it. Don't get me wrong. As much as I want to do the upgrade, I'm content.
I'm glad that you could. And real quick, hello to Jennifer Coletto, who joined us on the live stream for the show. Hey, Jennifer. On to our next story, though. It's going to be a Pokemon Go story. Pokemon Go numbers are actually down right now. Bloomberg reports. A report by Sensor Tower, SurveyMonkey, and Apatia show that Pokemon Go has declined from 45 million daily users in July to, unfortunately, 30 million users in August. So those poor Pokemon Go company folks from Ninetech, they lost 15 million daily users, but they're still at 30 million a day.
I think it's just a matter of time before they add the additional millions, I'm going to say millions, of other Pokemon characters that still need to discover, because they still haven't done those quote-unquote upgrades that a lot of the fans want to see. They haven't seen the player-to-player battle / trading / all these other interactive hopefuls that are coming in, and I bet that once those are applied, they'll bring those people right back.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a nostalgia fest for a lot of people who grew up watching Pokemon or playing it on their Game Boys or Game Boy Advances. But it just doesn't have the depth of regular traditional games. Some of the wowy, shiny newness of a new type of video game that uses augmented reality is kind of wearing off for a lot of people. And for the people who are just really invested in catching them all and they're not able to, they're kind of losing interest at this point, which is going to be the case for a lot of video games. You're going to have a certain level of attrition after the hype wears off anyways. But I don't think the Pokemon Go company or the Niantic are really crying tears about this, considering they've already made somewhere in the neighborhood of like $40 million just for the few weeks that the Pokemon has been out.
Are you still playing?
Me, yeah. I still try to walk around a little bit. It's been harder to catch Pokemon with some of the recent patches, but going back to major holidays where I work, there are a heck of a lot of Pokestops there, and I'm taking advantage of that at least.
What level are you at?
Pretty much the same level. I'm just catching a bunch of things, and I'm waiting till I catch I have all maximum possible before I start evolving them and getting experience from that as well. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to play the
yeah.
long game, but I'm certainly not a dedicated player like those guys who've traveled around the world to
Oh
catch them all.
man. Oh god. There's stories of these. Other than the horror stories that we heard of people falling off cliffs, driving into other people, just ending up in bad neighborhoods, which we called it.
Yep,
We
and
called it.
murder. One guy in Japan accidentally ran over somebody while he was playing Pokemon Go, and that woman died. So there was an actual murder charge against someone who was playing Pokemon Go in the car, which they advise against.
Yeah, that's like one of the first things to make sure you're not driving and beware of dangerous places.
And don't trespass, apparently.
Exactly. All right, let's talk more technology. Pizza delivery by drone. This week start of a flirty, is it flirty? Yeah, flirty. And Domino's Pizza debuted its first commercial model for a pizza delivery by drone. A Domino's location in New Zealand will begin delivering pizzas using drones later this year, with plans to begin using the technology and more of Domino's Pizza Enterprises 2,000 locations in the future. Now, how is this going to go horribly bad?
I mean, people shooting drones out of the sky for free pizza, those bad neighborhoods where you see kids trailing with slingshots, maybe trying to get pizzas out of the sky. And a few comments from the live stream. We have Danny Martinez who just joined us. Hey, Danny, nice to see you.
Danny.
Yolanda says, Pokemon, no, more like that. And Danny Martinez says he's currently level 14 on Pokemon Go. So there you go.
I'm at 10. I haven't ventured off too many parts. Depending where you live, there's some places where it's all centralized, a bunch of stops. So, that's easy up. I just hate it when I run out of Pokeballs and all these awesome characters come up and it's like, I can't catch you because I don't have the balls.
Yes, and the same thing might be said for that delivery by a drone. It's not going to be in the U.S. anytime soon, I think. We have too many new aviation laws for drones at this point.
Yeah.
They have to work that out. This is currently only in New Zealand. So some of those folks who can't get Domino's otherwise because of the rural areas, they can now get them by drone at least.
Yeah.
But Yolanda says, can you say death by delivery?
That's be said because remember that one rumor that supposedly Amazon was going to go the route of delivering by drone too.
Yeah, they're still totally testing that in the U.S.
So it can happen. It just might be limited restrictions on the areas depending, of course, on where you live.
It may be the fact that they can't, they can't deliver that super extra deluxe large pizza to you.
That's true.
For fear of death by objects falling from the sky. I think that's what Yolanda means, and that may be the case. They may limit you on the weight or size of the delivery by drone.
The one plus, not tipping those bastards.
Nope. You can tip them electronically. You can say, "Here's a half of a Bitcoin."
Nah. Flick a shekel at them if you want.
Okay, our next story, we're going to move into our entertainment section, going on with The Flash. Now, this is, of course, the Flash movie. There have been rumors this week about the villains that are going to show up in the Ezra Miller version of The Flash. You're first going to see your new Flash Ezra Miller in the 2017 Justice League on his first solo adventure. After that, the rumors are that the villains in the film are actually going to be the Rogues Gallery. If you're not familiar with the comics, these are kind of the B-rated characters in the DC universe. Among the Rogues Gallery, we have Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Heatwave, Weather Wizard, the Trickster, Pied Piper, the Top, and Captain Boomerang. So if any of those guys are your favorite supervillains, I pity you. These are kind of the weird ones. But heck with the Flash, he's not exactly made of steel, so he needs a slightly lower class of supervillain, so it makes sense. But it might be, 1 on, 5.
Yeah, checking out the IMDb for the Flash movie, hopefully coming out in 2018. Of course, you got Ezra Miller, Kiersey Clemens, and Ray Fisher as Cyborg. So Cyborg is going to be a little,
Yep, you're gonna have some cameos from other guys in the Justice League. I think they already discussed some of those guys. But you're gonna see crossovers with all these new DC movies, the same way that they do with the Marvel movies nowadays. DC is kind of learning from their example in that cross promoting really does help push those new movies and get those fans in the theaters. Even if they're not a fan of the main hero, they might be a fan of the cameo appearance.
Quick back to pizza talk. Yolanda says, I give it 1 month before they are serious, have a serious injury due to malfunctions. Yeah, because it's going to happen. Pieces going to fly. People are going to get hit. Hopefully they make you probably sign an electronic waiver saying if you order a pizza from us, if any shards end up in your food or in you in any kind of way, shape, or form, you void it.
that may be the case. I think the drone delivery service thing is going to be a little weird for a lot of people, but I'm always happy for new tech. Danny Martinez in the chat room says, Captain Boomerang B-list, no. Although you remember, you did see Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad, and he was rather entertaining as just a character. So they may do something good, and I would really hope they use the same actor, to be honest.
I gotta get ready. Be honest, like some of these characters that I thought that, they're gonna be pretty lousy, much less DC characters. I thought, like, how cool are they gonna really be? They managed to turn them out. Even some of the like lamest characters, they wanted to turn them out and make them really awesome. So I say give them a chance. Can't really tell until obviously they put out the product, because once they add that awesome soundtrack with the awesome trailer, they get you.
Very much. I'm talking about another series of what some would consider some B characters as well.
All right, Gambit director leaves to direct Justice League Dark. Warner Brothers has hired its Edge of Tomorrow director Doug Liman to helm the DC title Justice League Dark, and producer Scott Rudin after Guillermo del Toro dropped off to pursue his many other projects.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the Justice League Dark, this is like the supernatural version of the Justice League. You have some big name characters who are in the Justice League. Can you name them?
You got Deadman, looks like Constantine, and I can't tell the other gentleman in the very back.
Mystical Man. I think you also have Zatanna, who's also on the Dark Justice League on and off. But this is like your mystical people who deal with the darker elements of the mystical world and fight them.
So it's pretty much the equivalent of the Doctor Strange, Astro Plane, those kind of characters. But of course, DC's version of the same thing.
Yeah, but I think I'm honestly kind of a little sad that Guillermo del Toro has left the project. I was looking forward to his weird supernatural take that he's brought to a lot of great films, like Hellboy, of course. It's probably the most famous. This gentleman, I'm hoping he does a good job. I think it's funny that he skipped the Gambit movie to jump onto this project. That Gambit movie might never be made at this point. It's had so many delays. I think Channing Tatum is the only thing that's keeping it afloat at this point, that he's attached to the project. But I think we're probably going to see this Justice League Dark movie before Gambit.
Probably see that one splash with Channing Tatum before Gambit, which is like, once again, I love the X-Men so much, but I hate what they're doing to them. It's just give them back to Marvel. Just give them back to Marvel, give them back to DC. Disney, and just do it the way they should have been done a long time ago. Because right now they're just picking at a dead corpse, and it's horrible.
Yep. Now, in some other news, we have Thor and Loki are traveling to Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. In Thor Ragnarok, there was a recently leaked set photo that shows Thor holding the address 177A Bleecker Street, which is the address of Doctor Strange. So it looks like Thor and Loki are going to be looking for some supernatural assistance in their movie, and of course, this is their classic thing. They're tying in all the franchises, all the movies together. So they're going to go see Doctor Strange.
Yeah, cameo within a cameo within a cameo for another crossover / oh god, it's so interactive, entwined and mixed, but in a good way. I am not complaining at all, because it makes you, like, especially if you're a random person and you just happen to watch Doctor Strange, you're like, what's Thor doing in here? That makes you want to watch the other Thor movies, or who's this guy? It makes you want to watch the other ones. So
definitely,
so they know what they're doing.
Thor is probably the more popular figure, so throwing him in with Doctor Strange in any shape or form is going to be beneficial to both of them. But I believe the Doctor Strange movie comes out first this year, and then Thor Ragnarok coming out later. So for you folks in the chat room who are watching live, if you only could watch one of the two movies, Thor Ragnarok or Doctor Strange, which one would you rather watch?
I honestly, as much as I want to see Doctor Strange, because it'd be a whole new world, a whole new thing. It looks like, what's that? Inception kind of movie, the whole mind dreaming kind of weird thing. I really want to see Hulk in what was it?
Planet Hulk.
Hulk, gear, yeah, him and his gear coming out, just trashing everything. But I'm just wondering, especially with the is it the Avengers? Is it going to be the Infinity War? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can only imagine how much money they're going to spend on that just to pay the actors alone, not counting how much of the money they're going to spend in effects. Because honestly, they're probably just going to throw everybody in cheap versions of a costume in front of a green screen, and that's it. That's going to be your
That
movie.
maybe the only way you can fit everyone on there, and Danny Martinez and Tyra Mouse. How many more movies till all the stories combined? That's going to be called the Infinity Wars. That's
Infinity
that
War.
movie, and then there's another one after that, which is supposed to be related to it, but it's still untitled at this point.
Yeah, they'll break them off eventually.
But that's how long it'll be.
Yeah, and who knows, we'll ever tie back in with the whole Avengers thing. Not Avengers, excuse me, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So,
And Danny also says he'd rather see Doctor Strange instead of Thor Ragnarok if he had to choose between the two. So
yeah,
I say
agree.
good choice, Danny. At least you're getting new characters, a new story, and you're getting a new mystical element to the Marvel universe. Thor Ragnarok is probably going to be a huge action fest, in my opinion. Not that it's bad or anything, but those characters and those stories I've already kind of seen either in animated versions or just from the regular Marvel movies. I've never seen Doctor Strange in the big screen before, and Benedict Cumberbatch is a great actor, so I agree with you. Doctor Strange is probably the more interesting story at this point from my perspective, and it looks like Luis Vivas in the chat room also agrees that Doctor Strange is going to be more interesting.
See, Hulk is cool if you want big brute, strength smash kind of guy, very wrestler, football player, just big aggression, big testosterone, just running muck through everything. Cool to watch. But I want to see more visuals. Like once again, the Doctor Strange Inception world, the astral plane. Oh man, I can't wait to see the astral plane. That'd be awesome. I just can't wait for that. But we'll see how that turns out. Go to the next one.
Yep.
All right, well, keeping with the comic book related, new Iron Man is called Iron Heart. Last month, we learned that Tony Stark will be stepping down as Iron Man and bequeathing his role to Riri Williams, a young science prodigy who has fashioned her own version of Stark's Iron Man suit. Now, Marvel has released that when Williams officially steps into the role of this November, she'll be known as Iron Heart instead of Jeeves as the suit's AI. It will sound like Tony Stark. So pretty much Tony Stark's going to be the Jeeves voiceover instead of having the Jeeves, which pretty much Jeeves was adapted and became Vision. So he pretty much became his own character. But this Ironheart chick, nothing complaining, and it doesn't look too girly too, so it's not actually like a heart repulsor kind of thing, which I think would have cashed in on, the girly aspect. I'm sorry, ladies, but I'm going to say that, like, oh, it's cute, that kind of deal. But we'll see. Other than, of course, Pepper Potts being rescued, there really haven't been any really iron-clad female characters other than, once again, Pepper Potts.
Yep, absolutely. So, and for a lot of people, this new Iron Woman, they were kind of wondering. There's an interview with the creators of the latest Iron Man series, the Invincible Iron Man. They were discussing why they chose the name Iron Heart instead of naming her Iron Man or Iron Woman. And they said it had to do more along with her storyline that's going to be revealed in the first issue of the Invincible Iron Man as to why she chose to create it, why she's a child genius, all that kind of stuff, why she has a heart of iron and steel and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see the diversity that Marvel's bringing to at least their comic book series, if not the regular cinematic Marvel universe.
Luis, Wonder Woman is DC. I don't like DC. No, DC is cool and all, but
it's wonderful, yeah.
Especially with and even the clues are right there. The Iron Heart. They're probably going to deal with something having like a sickle cell, whatever heart condition that needs to be attached. The way with Tony Stark was like he needed to keep those shards in to keep him alive, but they had to keep him from piercing his heart and whatnot. That was the whole thing from the movie. So I would say watch it again. For this version, for this. I honestly, I kind of wish they called it like chick metal or something like that, or just it might be a little sexist, but yeah, just a little bit.
But it's okay. I mean, the people watch what they watch. Luis Vivas in the chat room says, let's not forget Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. Again, not a Marvel property, but you're right. She is sort of a female superhero eventually in Batman Returns, though she was a villain, if I'm not mistaken.
But remember, we talked about that they're eventually going to have a standalone Harley Quinn movie, and if anything, they'll do the Gotham City Sirens. Hopefully, which of course you got Batgirl, you got Catwoman, you got the Huntress. Black Canary. There's a bunch of female characters out there, which I got to give credit to a lot to the DC world on it, and I would totally check it out. Even though once again, I'm not a huge DC fan, but Batman related things, throw Batman in there in one kind of shape or form, or even him just walking by in the background. Oh, you got me. I'm gonna check it out.
Yep. Then there are a lot of people there. So was there any other geek news this week that you found interesting that we didn't include in our regular broadcast?
Right now, obviously, we're not there for this second right now, but right now is the Palm Springs Comic Con happening, of course, in Palm Springs. Mr. Stan Lee's all about there right now, Mr. 90-something-year-old. So hopefully, take advantage of it if you're out here in the local area, if you're here in LA, Southern California in general. Palm Springs Comic Con happening right now. Get a chance to see Stan Lee. I saw some of the tickets still available, but a majority of the meet and greets with Stan sold out. So I say take advantage of them before the Reaper does.
Absolutely. Now that's the end of our geek news section, folks. We are going to move on to our discussion, but before we do...
Oh, sorry. If you like the podcast and want to help support us, you can find out all the ways to do so at geekbytespodcast.com/support.
Yep. Any support you give us, folks, we definitely appreciate. We are going to move on to our discussion section.
Super quiet this time. It's fine.
Okay.
Hello, Hans.
Hey, Hans in the chat room. Hans Lemus has joined us, so thanks you very much, Hans, for watching. Joining us. In our discussion section, folks, we talk about anything that doesn't quite fit into our news section, our regular geek news section, and of course anything else we're interested in talking about this week. And this week we're going to be talking about our interview with Travis Bagwell, author of the Awaken Online story Catharsis. Now this is a very interesting and much darker lit RPG story than we've seen in the past. The main character in the story is not a very good person necessarily. He travels a very morally ambiguous path, doing things that might be considered by a polite society to be quite evil in some respects. And if you like VR, virtual reality stories with game mechanics like leveling and stuff, and zombies, this might be the story for you. You'll definitely probably enjoy it. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and soon as an audiobook. This guy is striking while the hammer's hot. It's only been out a month. It's hit the bestseller charts within Cyberpunk on Amazon, and he's putting on all the different formats possible. So we are going to be playing you a clip, folks, and here it goes. Hey everyone, I'm Ramon Mejia from Geek and Tech podcast, and today I'll be talking to the wonderful author Travis Bagwell, author of the best-selling lit RPG novel Awaken Online Catharsis. Now, his novel actually already has a 5-star rating on Amazon and over 240 reviews. Now, if you're not familiar with the Amazon system, that's really well. I mean, 250 people essentially gave him either 4 or 5-star reviews after reading his novel, and that is highly unusual, and it's because his novel is amazing. For example, Alpha Centauri has described it as awesome and innovative. Marty Meyer said it's an awesome start to a great virtual reality role-playing game. And the new reviewer says it's a must-read for lit RPG. So welcome, Travis, to the podcast and the interview.
Hi, guys. So that was a no-pressure introduction. So a little bit about myself. I'm a tax attorney. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm a little bit of a lit RPG addict, obviously. This has been an interesting experience. It's actually the first book I've ever written. My actually first foray into fiction, period. So it's been a roller coaster learning experience. I guess a little bit about the story, if you've never read it. The main character is kind of beat upon in real life. There's a virtual reality game and kind of becomes the villain. I mean, I'm not sure I can tell you more than that. It'd be a little bit of a spoiler.
No, that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, you're a tax attorney. You do good work. You have a real full-time job where it's like 40, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes. And then you find the time to write a wonderful lit RPG novel. And as far as you being a lit RPG addict, hey man, we're both on the same program at this point. You, me, and thousands of other people worldwide love these kind of stories where they take place in this video game world or this virtual reality world, whatever it is going to be, and you get numbers and stats and equations and levels and all that great stuff. And so your story definitely does that, and it does it in such a very unique and fun and interesting way. I think one of the most unique things about your story is that is, I wouldn't say that your character becomes a villain necessarily. He becomes the anti-hero. He comes from a very angry place initially within the story because he's mistreated, and he goes in this really interesting character arc of choosing an unusual class. We won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't read the story, but he chooses an unusual character class, and he goes on these weird, unusually interesting adventures, and makes unique character choices that kind of make people stop and say, "Wow, I wouldn't have thought that was going to happen." And I think that's a great thing, man.
Well, I have to say, I was aiming for a little bit morally gray. So, I mean, maybe I hit it, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said, anti-hero is not a bad thing. I mean, he's not your usual knight in shining armor paladin. We learn in your story that guy's the bad guy. So our hero, even if he is a darker and he takes the less trodden path through the dark alleys of morality, he's still interesting and fun. And I think a lot of people can connect and saying, you know what, I'm tired of the goody two-shoe characters. I want the guy who's going to be, aggressive a little bit and make the choices to win the battle at all costs potentially. And your character definitely does that.
I have to say, when I was kind of thinking about how to develop the character, where I wanted to go with the story, I was thinking to myself, like, I started playing Skyrim, for the very first time. It was a couple of years ago. And when I got into the game, the very first town, I'll admit, I killed everyone, took all their stuff. So it's not a spoiler, but that may influence the atmosphere of the book a little bit.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that's one of the things about modern video games is that they don't restrict you to, well, the game obviously, but they don't necessarily restrict you to a singular narrative. Especially the open world games like Grand Theft Auto, Skyrim. They allow for the darker choices in life, and of course there are consequences. The guards come and try to attack you and kill you. You attack somebody. It lets you, the mechanics of the world or the video game in this instance, they allow you to do that if that's what you want to do. You just, they're just consequences, just like real life. And I think, that does make for a more interesting world than just, he always has to be good. Like the world, whenever a world restricts a character from doing something, I find that boring. And so the fact that your world doesn't, it's interesting.
No one wants to read about the Wild West where they send you to get the boar's ribs. There'd be like 50 pages of you killing 50 boars to get 5 boar ribs.
Yeah. So a more open, your book definitely has the open world. You guys can do what you want in this world. There are just going to be consequences, whether they're beneficial or horrendous for you. There are consequences, but you can do what you want, guys.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so give us, talking about your character. Your main character of your story is Jason. Tell us about him and what makes him so special and unique within your story.
So I think when I started writing, I just had like one kind of badass scene, for lack of a better word, in my mind, and I sort of built the story around it. So, I mean, psychologically, you needed a justification for doing something evil, right? And so you needed a character that was kind of put upon. I mean, you needed someone who went into the game kind of angry or upset. Right. That's kind of what I had to design. But at the same time, people don't like stories where the main character just sits and complains, right? They don't like to listen to the whiny bitch main character. Right. And so you need to have your character grow, right? I mean, he can start out angry, but he's got to have some tipping point, right, where he starts to kind of build himself back up. And so I think that probably was the most challenging part of writing this book, was writing the main character in a way that you could kind of identify with him in the beginning, can understand where he was coming from when he did some stuff that probably wouldn't have been okay otherwise, would have maybe looked a little bit like a psychopath. But then kind of grow with him into someone that you could continue to identify with, right? I mean, that's hard from a psychological standpoint. I mean, I have to say I sat and finessed for hours and hours to try to get those his dialogue and kind of his evolution through the story right. I mean, the other stuff that happens was a lot easier. But developing somebody that felt real and really felt like he grew during the story was an interesting experience.
Yeah, it's very much the Dexter model in a lot of different ways. He makes questionable decisions. I mean, in the case of the Dexter, the Showtime series, Dexter he's a psychopath, but he's empathetic enough that people love to watch him, do the things he does because he has a code. He does things within very strict boundaries where he's doing good even though he's doing bad, kind of thing. And I think that's a very challenging character to create because, like I said, the things they're doing are morally ambiguous, or they're maybe by polite society considered wrong or bad. However, within the context of that character's life, within his experience, they very much are justified, and they make sense for him, even if it is a kind of therapy in a way to help him move past that state of anger.
I mean, I think all anti-hero characters are, you're walking a really fine line. Like, you want the reader to feel conflicted, right? You want them to say to themselves, I don't quite agree with what they're doing, but I can't really completely say, they're the villain, screw them, I wish someone would come and beat them. And actually, Dexter's a great example. I was also thinking of, like the Punisher, right? When you read those comic books or watch a movie or something, like, he just kills an enormous number of people, right? Like, but he has like a justification for it. And so you're kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't think this is completely justified, but.
Yeah, it's like, it's not something I would do necessarily, but I get why he does it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And a little bit less inflicted than, like your Dark Knight character, where it's like, yeah, I'm sullen and angry and I want to do right, but I'm kind of morally ambiguous, but I can't ever kill anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely say that your character is more like Punisher than he's like Batman, mostly because he doesn't have as many cool gadgets, and his, he doesn't go through the Dark Knight.
Well, I never understood the Dark Knight anyway. Like, why didn't he just start killing people? Like, wouldn't that have solved the majority of the problems? Like, I mean, if he was really trying to solve that city's crime problem, I think I would have handled it slightly different had I been writing that story.
Yes, they would have been a much different kind of movie if he actually murdered everybody that was bad and did the bad things. I mean, heck, have the research, to make sure you're killing the bad guys. But Batman was created in an age of good guys don't kill bad guys, no matter what, even if they're super villains who break out of Gotham or Arkham Asylum on a regular basis and they get all rapey on your partners or murder your best friend's sidekicks. You don't actually stop them at any point.
Well, I can't even remember which one in like the trilogy of movies where he was just like, he kind of became the villain. It was the second or the third one. They kind of painted him as the villain. And I was just like, well, if you're the villain, just own it. Like, I mean, like, no holds barred, just do this thing. So maybe this is a good hint at where my book is going. If you haven't read it.
Hey, to hear, folks, guys. Jason's getting murdery in the next book.
Yeah.
Okay, on to, you actually have a really interesting story of where you kind of came from. This is your first novel that you published on Amazon, and you're actually publishing not just the ebook, you've also got the printed edition, and you're finishing up, I think, an audiobook edition of this. So you're definitely striking while the iron's hot. So good for you, man. Can you tell me kind of about your journey from, Railroad, which is I think where you initially started publishing your story to Amazon and then to your other projects? How was that journey for you?
Convoluted, and it didn't feel like a seamless plan. I mean, I'm actually, we were talking about this before we started the interview. There's been a bunch of people who've kind of contacted me and been like, what have you done? Like, how did you go through this process and everything? And I'd say I just stumbled into it. But I think I did a couple things right by accident, clearly. Posting as a serial, starting on Railroad, like you mentioned, is probably the first thing I did right. Again, by accident. And at the time, I was just thinking to myself, man, this story is no one's going to like this. Like, I mean, it's the first thing I've ever written. I'm not, no one's even read it. Like, my wife wouldn't even read it. And, it was like kind of a heart-wrenching thing to first post it. But there's a couple things that you benefit from posting a story as a serial. Like, basically, you get kind of this collective audience that can give you feedback, sort of like a giant group of beta readers, essentially, which is helpful. I mean, I definitely finessed the story based on feedback. And I finessed the story knowing that other people were going to read it. I mean, that's a different thing than just kind of sitting in your office and typing away. But the second really kind of biggest thing is you start to get people that are interested in your story. right? I mean, they follow you, and then they kind of get like addicted to the storyline. They want the next post or the next chapter, and it's that building up of a reader base is really important. I didn't understand it at the time, but when you go to publish, whether your book gets kind of stuck in Amazon obscurity, like in the 500,000 sales rank,
Right.
or whether you're higher up the rank, which has some momentum associated with it, right? Like the higher you are on those rankings on that site, the more people read your story and you maintain your position.
Mm-hmm.
You need people who are interested. I mean, you need to launch your book with like a fan base, kind of. I mean, and it sounds conceited for me to call everyone like a fan base, but it's an important thing. I'm a member in a whole bunch of these different little writing groups now, and that's what everyone's complaining about. I just published my book. I think it's the best thing ever, but they don't have anybody to read it. And no one's willing to take a chance on it. They don't have any reviews. And so their book which could be.
Hey, and we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed that clip from our interview with Travis Bagwell, author of Awaken Online, Catharsis. Again, a great, very interesting book. Our review on the story can be found at geekbytespodcast.com under either our review section or under our Lit RPG recommendation page, where we have his and over 100 other Lit RPG series, not books, but 100 series of Lit RPG stories for you to purchase on Amazon or for free on the internet. We also have a great free section where you can find things on the internet without paying for them. And of course, most of these stories are also on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that program, there are definitely things for you to watch and buy. And of course, you can find out the links to purchase Travis's story in our show notes as well. And of course, you can watch all the interviews will be done at geekbytespodcast.com. It's all on the front page there. That's going to be it for our show, folks. Thank you very much for watching. For Geek by Podcast, though, I am Ramon Mejia.
I'm Edgar Acosta.
And remember, folks, to go geek out about something.